And I've got with me Mr. Crine Megalithic Boom. I've got with me Mr. Ares Emir Politopoulos. And I'm live here streaming from Stanford University, very close to the main quad. We cannot switch your webcams because, silly enough, there's not enough bandwidth in Silicon Valley to sustain our stream. That's how epic we are. And I'm Angus Mole, aka Dr. Random. And we are going to be taking you on a little trip of the dawn of civilization today. Of course, we're going to do this little trip through a game, in this case, as you can see right on the screen here, Civilization 6, the newest installation of this epic, in sense of gaming history and also in terms of its gaming scope, game. You're kind of lucking out right here because you have me as somewhat of a Civ expert, at least in terms of how long I've been playing it. I'm not going to say I can beat the game very easily on Emperor all the times, but I've been having my go at Civilization, I think, ever since 1996. So
that's roughly 20 years.
Yes, that's 20 years. Oh my God, I'm old. I'm so fucking old. Well, anyway, let's not go back to the dawn of my life, but let's at least go back to the dawn of civilization.
Yes.
And luckily enough for you all, Ares is somewhat of an expert on that with regards to the ancient Near East. And luckily for you as well, we have Krijn Boom, who's not an expert in anything that's going to be going on right here, but he's a generally funny and interesting guy. So you should be having a fun time with us, we hope. So Ares, you sort of had the idea to do this, right? The way we're going to be doing this. So can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my idea was I wanted to explore the ideas and the ideology behind the game and the themes that the game explores. By the way, as you can hear, I'm mildly sick, so my voice will have this sexy essence. But in order to do that, and because we cannot really stream for roughly 20 hours that a proper game would take us, a good way to do it would be to go through the tutorial, because during the tutorial a lot of the game mechanics and ideas are being introduced, and we get the opportunity to play with Sumerians, which lies in my field of interest in terms of research. So Angus can comment and discuss all about the new and older mechanics and how they relate to the ideology of the game and what the game tries to convey. And I can talk a lot about representation, about themes from the Near East emerging into the game, about characters and agents and stuff like that. So we will be going through some key themes of the game as we go through the tutorial.
Yes, we are, and I have to maybe check our Twitch page real quickly, because are we still, in fact, streaming as if we're playing Overwatch? Because since Twitch is bugging out for me a little bit, I can't really change any of the settings, unfortunately. So maybe, Krijn, you could go into our Twitch page and change the fact that we're playing Overwatch to the fact that we're actually going to be strapping into our time gears and loading up this game at the dawn of civilization. Alright, so we're going to be doing... And this is for me, in a way, this is for me a blast to the past, because it's been a long time since I ever played a tutorial in Civilization. I normally, even with all the new game mechanics, I just go straight into a single player game. An epic one, well, actually not straight, because as you know, there's normally in a normal game of Civilization, there's lots and lots of choices in terms of the civilization that you're going to be playing, and I normally have like a good long think about the leader that I want to play, and as well as the leaders I want to have included in my game. So normally we first like mull over all the different leaders, but we don't really have to do that here because the tutorial is not going to give us much of a choice really. It's going to just give us the choices of 2 civilizations to play with. So no choice paralysis right there. Let's fire this baby up. All right. So somebody make time machine noises. You do it, Krijn. Make time machine noises, please.
I'm still working on your last request.
Scotty, I don't have the power. All right. Well, all right. Then I'm gonna make some time machine noises. There we go. Boom. All right. I'm now gonna shut up for a moment, and we're gonna just look at this lovely, lovely.
Wind and fire.
Angus, you're such a nerd.
And arrive here. A new world. One
Ridiculous.
ripe with great possibility. And even greater dangers. Here our people stand, their destinies unwritten. Will they push forward into greatness? Or see themselves lost to the ages? Their fate lies in your hands.
All right. Just for everybody's information, if you think you recognize that voice, you do. That voiceover is in fact Sean Bean, who you probably know from many different death scenes in in movies and series, but
We didn't hear anything.
you didn't hear
Yeah,
anything.
you didn't.
Well, I mean, on the
you're
stream,
not on the
people. I'm
stream.
talking on the stream and the video. You have to get with the idea that actually you. So that's good, maybe to tell the people back at home is that Aris and Krijn are skyping in, so they are not able to hear the audio. Well, the good thing is that audio isn't like a very important game cue for gameplay in Civilization, but there is lots of lovely audio in there that they have to miss out. But you, well, future people looking at our video, or present people that are streaming with us or watching our stream right now, they do get to hear this very lovely, lovely voiceover of Sean Bean. So I have before me a very important choice, Aris.
Yes.
Should I play as Cleopatra of the Egyptian Empire, who rules a civilization of strong allies and great city builders? Or should I go for Gilgamesh of the Sumerian Empire, rules vast lands and is a respected conqueror with a mighty beard? Well, I know what you would like, because you yourself have a mighty beard, my friend, and you are yourself much more of a Sumerian specialist than you are an Egyptologist, right?
Definitely.
So if I now,
But,
in fact, would move my mouse over and say we're going to be playing as Cleopatra, that would make you sweat a little bit, right?
Yes.
Yes, all right.
slightly.
So you know what? Kick Ares out, get an Egyptologist in. We're going to play as Cleopatra. Nah, just kidding. We're going to be playing as Gilgamesh. Maybe before we head into the actual gameplay, Ares, can you? I think I've heard of Gilgamesh before, but you know, I'm a bit rusty in my ancient Near East ruler knowledge. Can you give me a little bit of a puff piece on this man? Who is Gilgamesh, and why is it cool to be playing as him?
So one of the main reasons we choose to play as Gilgamesh in this discussion of Dawn of Civilization is because Gilgamesh is one of the is the main figure in the namesake epic of Gilgamesh, obviously, and he is the king of Uruk. Uruk is one of the many city-states of Mesopotamia, and many archaeologists and researchers actually trace down the dawn of civilization to those city-states, because in Mesopotamia we had the emergence of the first cities, and as you can connect, cities and civilizations come from the same Latin word, civis. So it's very interesting for the game that it actually chooses to include Sumerians, which was the first people to construct cities with the modern idea that we have. So Gilgamesh is the king of Uruk, which was one of the most powerful city-states of Mesopotamia, roughly in the 4th and 3rd millennium. And in this epic, which has survived in different tablets coming from much later periods and different periods as well, we learn a lot about him, about the way he ruled his city, his conquests, and his major achievements. So the Epic of Gilgamesh is also probably the oldest tale we have, which includes themes which eventually would be recurring in many important epics and stories of the world, including, of course, the Bible, the Homeric epics, and all sorts of stuff.
All right, and maybe as another brief primer, and it's good to, for historical accuracy, it's good to tell people that Cleopatra and Gilgamesh, were they contemporaries, Ares, or were they actually...
No, absolutely not at all.
Okay.
Because, of course, we're talking about ancient Mesopotamia. As I said, we're dating roughly in the 4th millennium BC, and Cleopatra is much, much later during the Roman period and the end of the 1st millennium. So,
Exactly.
we're not,
And
we don't particularly care about contemporaries in this game, as you can see.
No, for sure. Cleopatra is, of course, famous from her embroilment with Julius Caesar and later Marcus Antonius or Mark Antony. And that's also, of course, being memorialized in Shakespeare plays and lots of different, and the HBO series Rome. She was, Gilgamesh sounds like an interesting chap, but Cleopatra was also very much an interesting person. Although, unfortunately, Cleopatra, we being men, like bearded men, I'm not so much bearded, but Ares is very bearded. We like bearded men that actually stood at the dawn of civilization. So, unfortunately, for now, we're gonna be choosing the man to play with. All right, wanna head in, Ares?
Yes, let's do this.
All right. I'm very excited. There we go.
Of life beneath water, to the great beasts of the Stone Age, to man taking his first upright steps, you have come far. Now begins your greatest quest, from this early cradle of civilization on towards the stars. Much rests upon your shoulders, King Gilgamesh. Your own people, and many people of the world, look to you as a leader. But you are more than a mere man, and the weight of the world will never cause you to waver. Encourage the people of Sumer to settle the fertile lands along rivers, and be sure to choose your allies carefully, for there will be many vying for a piece of your strength. Venture forth, for it is time to begin your epic tale.
All right. Well, talking about an epic introduction, maybe it's nice to sort of hang around here for a little bit as well, and because I think actually it's safe to say that we all love Civilization, right? I most definitely love Civilization as a game. I have many hundreds of hours devoted to this thing. At the same time, I have some qualms with Civilization, and that's sort of, I think, this love. Well, not hate, but love qualm affair is going to be shining through to our entire stream. And I think, interestingly enough, even though I love the introduction that you get at the start of every Civilization game, it is, of course, horribly, horribly wrong. Because somehow we are entering this world based on the first stirrings of life beneath water, which, of course, is the origin of life, not so much the origin of civilization. Then, all of a sudden, we have the great beasts of the Stone Age, and then we have man taking his first upright steps. Well, anybody who's even a little bit remotely into human history, or the history of the whole Earth, knows that there is a little bit of an issue with there, of course. I mean, if you want to go back all the way to the first stirrings of life beneath water, that is probably like 3 billion years ago, if I remember correctly.
Something like that.
Then it is man, and I would like to say women as well, taking their first upright steps. I think that the oldest skeletons that we actually have that are upright are in fact of female sex, I think, even. So it's women, as far as we know, taking their first upright steps. And of course then much later we have the Stone Age with its great beasts. So that's just already showing off. I mean, it's how a civilization can be kind of problematic as well in terms of how it presents history. Because if you're gonna be filling in this little introduction in your history test, it's gonna go wrong with you in terms of grading. However, that having been said, I mean, what do you like? How do you like the Gilgamesh introduction, Aris?
So overall, there are a lot of interesting things regarding Gilgamesh, and it shows civilization as this interesting contrast of, on one hand, having so many weird mistakes and misunderstandings, and on the other hand, having done such nice research on some of the rulers that are included in there. So, since you commented on the first part, indeed, Gilgamesh was more than a mere man. Was a son of a goddess, and he all his actions literally elevated him into almost godlike status. Although he was not particularly the one to get the people of Sumer to settle in fertile lands, because people used to live there way before the times of Gilgamesh, and quite often, even within the epic itself, he is referred to as a tyrant rather than a loving king. Moving a little bit forward, we have the features and abilities. So Angus can tell you that each different civilization has different and unique abilities and features that you can construct. And in this case, we have the adventures of Enkidu, which has may declare war on anyone at war with their allies without warmonger penalties. So Enkidu is one of the prominent figures of the epic. He was sent by the gods to defeat Gilgamesh, because Gilgamesh was becoming too powerful and too arrogant. And it's very interesting because Enkidu was sent into the forest and was raised by the animals, and by everybody he was considered an animal, even though he was very clearly a human. But when somebody went to hunt down Enkidu, they decided that the most efficient way, and now I'm skipping part of the text of course, that the most efficient way was to send a whore to Enkidu to lure him with his sexual drives.
Interesting. Away from animalhood towards humanhood.
Yeah, exactly. So the first step towards the humanhood was actually sex. And then the second and third steps towards humanhood was to save him, because a man should not be covered in fur. So he was saved, he learned how to eat properly on a table, and of course he tried for the first time in his life beer.
Aha.
Because for the people of Sumer, you were not civilized unless you appreciated beer.
These people sound like my kind of people.
Exactly, yes, indeed.
Non-furry people.
They're not furry. They're not furry, and they like beer. That sounds pretty good for sure.
And eventually they became great friends, Enkidu and Gilgamesh, and they went in all sorts of expeditions together until, spoiler alert, Enkidu dies at some point. So it's very interesting that they incorporated this this mechanic of going to war with allies, because Enkidu and Gilgamesh were really close friends. Then we have the epic quests, something which, well, Gilgamesh goes in all sorts of epic quests within the epic. And finally, there is a unique unit to our good civilization, the war cart, which is a very powerful early military unit in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, although we do know that they had war carts, the war carts at that point were not used, they were only used for transportation, so for moving soldiers on the field, and not as war carts as such, as military engines.
Okay.
Which is very interesting, because they didn't have horses, or at least not exactly the horses that we know of today, so they had to either put them on oxes, or on a version of horses called the onager, which we don't know if they had managed to tame it and use it for such purposes.
All right, maybe we're gonna. I'm hoping that we'll see the war cart in action maybe later during our game. But Yeah, from a civilization perspective, I think that it's interesting that I didn't pick my. I've only done one playthrough of Civilization 6 so far, and I didn't pick the Sumerians. So this is my first time for me playing with them. I picked the Romans, but actually what I did find through my play there, that warmonger penalties, are basically penalties that you incur because you go to war with other civilizations, which never was much of a thing before, is now actually kind of, yeah, it's gonna mess up your game if you go to war too frequently and without reason with other civilizations. So this may actually be. I'm actually thinking that this may be a very, very good thing for the Sumerians. That through making alliances, although making alliances was also kind of hard for me in the previous game because I was maybe going to war too often. It's you can actually just take out some strategic targets through this particular power. I'm not so sure that's going to be very important in this playthrough, right? Because we're only playing with 2 civilizations in the game, right? The tutorial. Yeah. So there's not going to be many allies to use to attack other.
No.
Still,
we're. Go ahead.
One thing though. So Enkidu, how is he related to getting allies and through allies attack others?
I think the way that they use it here, as by saying Adventures of Enkidu, is because of the close friendship that he had with Gilgamesh. And all his help that he provided and good counsel that he provided in all of his quests. So I'm not sure. I don't think there is any other relation. I think they're just using Enkidu just as for authenticity purposes rather than anything else.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we have Lomo Zoe or Lucy from Oostgeest in the stream with us, and she also agrees that not Lucy. I guess this Lomo Zoe was referring to Lucy, the skeleton being the very first upright walking human being. I thought she or he was identifying him or herself as Lucy. That's of course not the case. No. But in the stream we have Lomo Zoe that is commenting on the warmonger penalties to civilization and saying that not sure why they gave this bonus to Sumeria. Were an ancient classical oriented civilization. Yes, it's interesting why this particular one is going to Sumeria. It's not something that I, from my limited knowledge, would associate with them. Maybe even more this type of proxy war waging would maybe something that even fits a little bit better like the American civilization, like the United States, for example, who are well known to use proxy wars to wage wars through allies to wage wars with other global players, like of course during the Cold War the Russians, Vietnam War being a very prominent example of that, of course. But still, I guess that they made this decision that this fits well with the Sumerians, or maybe they just had this specific power left and they said, hey, the Sumerians need something to... I do like the idea...
It's very weird.
Yeah.
Because indeed, the type of warfare that they had at that point was quite different in Sumeria. Because you had wars between city-states, but you rarely had alliances. And even when you had alliances, sometimes there were indeed city-states which would intervene and act as neutral agents, but it doesn't really fit the way that war was conducted at that point.
Right, and as Lomo Zoe is also saying on the chat, it is kind of weird from a mechanic point of view because there are no warmonger penalties in the ancient era, basically. There's the inability to make a casus belli, which is basically a reason for war. So, and even from a historical perspective, if you take a long-term view, the idea of incurring penalties for being a warmonger is really, really, really new, actually. I mean, people never liked it if other civilizations went to war, but the idea of having peace between nations or between civilizations is actually something very recent. Before that, in the medieval era, you would have to have an actual peace treaty in place to even be considered not to be at war. So it was the complete for the majority of human history. It was actually the complete opposite situation that we have now. So now you have to declare war, and first,
Yeah.
it was always about declaring peace with each other. So, still, I do like the epic quest ability though. From
Yes.
from this idea of that you are going to, as one of these first hell marks of civilization, you're going to go out and just trash the hell out of a couple of the barbarian villages. And well, I know you have your own thoughts on that, Ares, but I'm sure we'll get to that later.
I can explain a lot of things regarding that specific mechanic and the history of Sumeria, but let's get into the game.
Let's
first
get
and
into the
then
game first, and
then we can talk about barbarians.
for sure. All right, there we go.
Welcome, Gilgamesh. Our people's fate lies in your hands. Great is the responsibility placed upon you. Perhaps I may be of service.
I like this voiceover as well. I have to quickly look up who this person is, the actor right here, because as I said, the other
It's
voiceover.
very nice indeed.
But I like her accent though. It's like wait a minute, what sort of accent are you
Yeah.
going for here? It's like a little bit of like, I guess, English, British, lower class kind of style. So no, I don't want to know who Mr. Sean Bean is. I know that female voiceovers. And who is she? The Steam community is gonna come to our aid, I hope. Probably in the game. Natasha Loring. I don't really know much about her, but let's just briefly look it up. That's why we've got the internet straight at hand. Interesting. Natasha Loring is she also doing Civilization? Is that in there? Yes, she is the advisor voice. She's an actress who's known for the Dinosaur Project, Zulu, and playing as Natalie Holloway in the film of the same name, actually. So that's interesting. I don't really know much of her, but I have been enjoying her voice quite a bit. That being said, let's finally get ourselves into some action here. All right, no pressure here. People's fate lying in my hands. As a responsible archaeologist,
No pressure.
I'm used to this, you know. Normally, the educational fate of some people lies in our hands as teachers, Aris. So we can do this. We can do this. I kind of like the idea
So, Angus, how are we doing this then? I mean, are you guys making decisions, or is the stream making decisions?
that for now,
we are
for
going
now
through
it's
the tutorial, which is not particularly
decision heavy.
easy to make. Yeah, not particularly decision heavy because it just showcases the mechanics.
I think later on, if we still get our chance to get some free time with the game, then we'll have the stream make some interesting decisions, or we'll make them by committee. How about that?
Yeah,
With me being the primus inter pares, because I'm actually the one clicking the buttons.
that is true.
All right. Anyway, let's get started.
For too long we have roamed this world without a land to call our own. It is time we put down roots.
I know the feeling. I've been hiking around here at Stanford University for the last year. I have a room. That's true, but it doesn't really feel like I have roots in this place just yet. And I kind of want to put down roots, which is why.
Angus, click on continue.
Oh, come on! Let me just. I want to have a dialogue with this game, but no. I mean, surely though, this is an interesting concept, right? There's this idea that these people are there roaming around without a land, so without, I guess that they mean territory to call your own.
Yes.
And it is time that we actually are going to be claiming some territory. In the stream, with people commenting that this is actually a pretty good location to start out from, I would agree. We've got some nice in-game resources there. So I'm kind of excited about putting down my roots in this particular spot. All right. Next to a river, always nice. Also close to the idea of what we know. Yeah, for sure. So there we go. Let's do this. I'm gonna click the settler.
Our brave settlers await your command. We should found our first city here.
Brave settlers. There's many things that I associate with settler units. Not that they're particularly
Not
brave.
that they're brave. No.
Normally they need at least a military contingent of one to guide them through the land. But all right, I guess these people have.
That's nothing about not being brave, man.
I mean, you should.
That says something about vulnerability.
Okay, that is true. They may still be
That is fair
a
enough.
brave unit, and I'm very grateful to them because they do allow me to found new cities. Um, this particular mechanic has been the same ever since the first civilization. You build a settler, or you start the game out with a settler, and you find yourself a spot, hopefully as quickly as possible, a spot that you can use to build your first city, and you found your city, which consumes the settler unit, of course.
From the seeds of the small city shall you grow an empire. But to truly thrive, we must first see to the needs of
Oh, there is the magnificent Uruk.